Hello music makers, welcome back. I've had quite a few comments from people who downloaded my free RevRev rack, the reverse reverb effect. A few of you were having problems getting it to work, and it turns out it does work. It's not your fault. I just did a very bad job of explaining it. So here's what we're going to do. First, let me quickly show you what I was bad at explaining and where most people were going wrong with it. Then I've got a finished track here to show you 3 different practical uses for it. And lastly, a quick look inside the plugin so you might understand it better, and those who don't use Ableton might be able to recreate it for themselves. Let's go. Okay, here's a quick vocal to reverse into. It doesn't have to be a vocal, by the way. You can do this with most sounds. Now, what I didn't explain very well in the original video was this plugin cannot predict the future. What I mean is we can't just generate some effect here from nothing that somehow magically predicts what's about to come afterwards. No, the plugin needs something to grab. So I'm going to snip off the first word or note of our part here. That is what it's going to use. Then all we have to do is use the fade control to fade this effect in. This means we won't hear that initial snippet. So that's one of the main things people were missing. I demonstrated it a little too fast, and some people missed that you needed to grab some of the audio first. The second thing tripping some people up was the freeze parameter. Now, I haven't used the freeze in this example. It's not needed here, this is only 1 bar long. But the freeze parameter comes in useful when you want to do a longer fade in. Let's try this length. 4 bars, about 15 seconds. Now under the hood, this plugin is basically just the output volume to a very long reverb, but it's not infinite. It does decay off. Let me take the fade off so you can hear what's happening over this length of time. So if we were to fade that in just as it is, it won't be very strong by the time we get to the end. As you can hear, it doesn't have the full effect. We need that strong sweep in. But if we freeze that reverb when it's strong, then it will stay that way as long as we need it. Like that. The problem was, in the original video, again, I was moving a little bit too fast, and what a lot of people missed is that you need to start the freeze after the reverb has already started. Just like the reverb needs a sample to grab, the freeze needs a reverb to grab. So if you turn on the freeze at the same time as the effect start, it has nothing to freeze, so you'll just get silence. Mostly silence, anyway. So we need to start the freeze at some point after the effect has already started. Basically, just somewhere pretty soon after the snippet you've grabbed has stopped. So just to go over that one more time, we take a copy of the initial note or part that we want to reverse into, put that at where we want the fade to start. Then we set how loud we want the total effect to be. The default max is +6 decibels. It should sound fine there, but you can back it off if it's too much. And then we fade in from the start of our little grabbed section here. A linear fade should sound fine, but if you need to curve it, you can hold Alt. Let's just go with straight for now. That's all you'll need to do for shorter amounts of time. But if the effect is too weak by the time you've faded in, if it's longer, then we need to utilize the freeze. And if that's the case, make sure you start the freeze after the effect has already started. There we go. Hopefully that's cleared everything up for you. Now let me show you how I use it in a finished track. Okay, so here's an example in a track. We've got a reverse into the vocal and another one over here into the synth. Sounds like this. that. And here's a shorter reverse into the synth. Let's solo that. So that's using it to reverse into something, but there's other ways we can use it. We can also use this effect for transitions and builds. Here's one example. In the middle here, we break down to this ARP sound. So now, as the ARP is still playing, I'm not going to use the fade. I'm just going to increase the level, and it's going to build into this next section. And because of that sharp cutoff, it helps us really launch into that section. I've done that in quite a few places in this track. For the build in the first break of this track, you'll hear what sounds like white noise building up, but there isn't. It's actually just the effect swelling on the claps. Have a listen. So if you're trying to keep it minimal or efficient, no need for risers, white noise, or reverse cymbals. Here it is soloed. So there, the only thing in that build is the lead, the clap, and the vocal. And then for the longer second break in this track, I've done the same thing again, just on a few more parts. Here it is on that ARP again. I've also used it on the vocal. And also I'm using it on the snare. This 909 style snare has a lot of noise already in it, so we've basically made another noise riser. Altogether, that sounds like this. Like that. Now, another way you can use this effect is for adding little fills or details to turnarounds. It's hard to describe, so I'll just show you. On the vocal in the last drop of this track, at the end of the turnaround, I just crank it for one single beat. No ramp up at all, just fully on, fully off. And it almost sounds like a reverse. Like that. I've done the same thing in the lead sound over here too. It's especially useful if you're using samples and not synths, because you can't automate the filter or anything. So this gives you an option to add some interest halfway through a loop. Another way you can use it for fills is like this. I've added this stutter pattern on my clap here. Sounds like this. It's pretty subtle. Let me solo that. Again, a way of just adding some extra details, some extra little touches. So it's a simple effect, but there's 3 ways you can use it creatively in your productions. Okay, so that was it in action, but what actually is it? Well, under the hood, it's extremely simple. It's just a reverb and a dry path. 2 paths in parallel. Ableton calls them chains. One has the reverb on, one has the dry signal. The only thing on the dry path is a volume that's connected to the fade control. And on the other path, we have the reverb itself. There's another volume here, again connected to the fade. And this is actually just acting as a mute on the way into the reverb. I'll show you that in a minute. So your main control here is the effects level. That's just tied to the output volume of this entire chain. And as soon as we add any level at all, the mute on this utility is disengaged. So signal can be let through to the reverb. So that means when the signal is off, nothing can get to the reverb. It's also cleaner than turning the reverb on and off, which sounds distracting when reverbs empty their buffer. So that's just controlling the level of this chain and disabling the mute into the reverb. And then the fade, this is like your total output volume for both signals, both chains. So that's controlling a volume on each of these paths. And then lastly, we have the freeze function. So the only reason for this is because to keep things simple, I used Ableton's built-in reverb. And that lets you freeze the reverb in time, so it sustains infinitely. You can see it built in right there. Now, don't worry, if you're building your own and you don't use Ableton, you could use a reverb like Valhalla's Supermassive. Supermassive has the ability to go 100% on its feedback loop, which gives you infinite reverb. Then simply crank the density and the warp to full. Choose your algorithm of preference. The default Gemini sounds pretty good, to be honest. That gets you a nice, smooth, diffused, infinite reverb tail, so you won't have to use a freeze control at all. Okie dokie, hope you found that helpful. If you did, you know what to do. Like the video, or don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss any more free racks I put out. If you're feeling particularly generous, there's a link to buy me a coffee in the description. But until next time, I will see you in the comments. Bye-bye.